Okay, fungi and food. Now, we've talked a little bit about this, so these last slides are going to go pretty quickly because we have talked about them in previous slides. You know that mushrooms, we've talked about those mushrooms. We eat a lot of them. Agaricus bisporus, that's our common everyday mushroom. Portobello is our largest of our edible mushrooms. There's a lot of shiitake mushrooms that you find in Asian food. Mushrooms, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of species of mushrooms, and a lot of them they're put in sauces and foods and very nutritious, very tasty. Yeast, yeast is Ascomycota. Mushrooms are Basidiomycota. Yeast is Ascomycota, and it causes bread to rise and ferments things like beer and wine. Truffles, we talked about that. If you have a truffle farm, you're probably a millionaire because they can't be planted, but because they're below the ground, you have to have either some sort of animal to root them out. Truffle rooting pigs. If you've got a truffle rooting pig, and I talked to a guy in Italy when I went over there on a pilgrimage once, and I don't like the taste of truffles. I think it's very bitter. But in Italy, truffle oil is a delicacy because it's so expensive. And there was this guy, and he was driving a Ferrari, and he had this unbelievable home in Italy. And he was like, "Well, I just have a truffle farm. I bought this property, and it had truffles, and I didn't know it until I had this pig, and the pig rooted out the truffles, and then we, of course, over the years, and his family has made millions of dollars off of having these truffles." And he said that he had paid like $25,000 American for this pig. Well, if you know, we can't smell them, it's below the ground. So if you've got an animal that can root out truffles and smell them, and dogs can do it too, from what I understand, then you have to pay a pretty high price for them. All right, cheeses. We didn't talk too much about cheeses, but Roquefort cheese, blue cheese, Camembert cheese, all of your stinky cheeses are fungus. And you guys may like blue cheese. I don't like blue cheese, but it does have a lot of taste when you put it into certain dressings, as well as some of if the cheese smells really sharp or real pungent, more than likely it is a cheese that come from fungus. All right, bioremediation. Now, if you remember, bioremediation means that they're using fungus to provide good for the environment. So, as far as fungus is concerned, it can be mixed with water and soil, and actually it decomposes organic materials and pollutants. So, because it's capable of digesting dead and decaying material extracellularly, then they use it a lot to clear up a lot of pollutants in the environment. Once the pollutants are broken down into their individual component, they become less harmful, and then we can deal with them. So a lot of times they use fungus to break things down. Certain oils, they can break down certain oils into their components until they're dealt with. If you have got problems in your water, sometimes that they will do that, especially in the soil. In the soil, if there's a lot of too much nitrogen in the soil, then your fungus can deal with it. So they're very good in the bioremediation department. Okay, harmful. We've talked about a lot of harmful. The only one that I am going to ask you about is this middle one, Endothea parasitica, and it is chestnut blight. It kills trees, and there's also the one at the top that causes Dutch elm disease. So Ceratocystis ulmi is Dutch elm disease, and Endothea parasitica, that's chestnut blight, and the Leptochiria metacognesis is alfalfa. And I'm not going to ask you anything about the top one or the bottom one. I do want you to be familiar with the one, Endothea parasitica, because we do have a lot of problems with it in Memphis. Okay, continuing on, we know that they can be parasitizing humans. That's where one is benefiting and the other one is being harmed. And they bring out Cordyceps militaris, and this infects butterflies and moths. I'm not going to ask you this one either, but fungus can grow anywhere. You know, mold has to have a solid surface on which to grow. So if it's a true mold, it's going to be on a solid surface. We don't have in our systems too much mold, but we can get a lot of fungal infections. And with butterflies and other animals, it's the same. And your book just brings out this one because we do have a problem with it in America. There has been lepto or butterflies. Lepidoptera is their class name. And there's been a lot of infection fungus wise and has been a big deal because some of the butterfly populations have dropped off because of this particular disease. And at the bottom, we know that athlete's foot, ringworm, yeast infection, thrush, that's candida in the mouth. These are all very harmful parasitic infections. Okay, we're done. So make sure that you look at your classes. We are going to be, we're going to put, I'm sorry, look at your phyla because we are going to have members of each phyla too. The good news is there's just not that many of them.